Hello, everyone. Happy New Year, and welcome to Stress Free IEP, the show where we help families build their village to raise their neurodivergent children with confidence and support. I'm your host, Frances Schefter, special education attorney, advocate, and fellow parent walking this journey with you. Each week, we shine a light on the professionals, resources, and real world strategies that can empower you to navigate the IEP process and beyond. Whether you're tuning in live on Facebook or YouTube or listening later on your favorite podcast app, we're so glad you're here. Please feel free to ask questions live or in the comment section. We promise to respond. Let's dive in and meet today's amazing guest. Today, we're joined by Sam Mitchell, who is a host of the popular podcast called Autism Rocks and Rolls. Sam is autistic himself, and he's built a platform that highlights real stories, real experiences, and real impact in the autism community. He's here to share the missions behind his podcast and his nonprofit, and to talk about why elevating autistic voices and spreading awareness in a meaningful way matters. Sam, welcome to the show. And for anyone who's new to your work, what inspired you to start Autism Rocks and Rolls? And what's the bigger mission you are working towards?
Okay, I can try and answer all three of those at the same time. So, hello, everyone. My name is Sam Mitchell. I run a podcast called Autism Rocks and Rolls. It's a podcast about autism and how we cope with daily struggles that you may or may not understand. Through the podcast, it's grown so much. I develop sponsors, a board of 6. I'm an event planner in Indianapolis, where I'm from, and I do speaking services. I've spoken all the way up in Canada to the bottom south of Orlando. But when I started my high school's media club is where I truly found out about podcasting, and my friend, it just clicked, and the rest is history, to say the least. I haven't stopped since.
That is so awesome. So it's all about, who do you have? Do you have guests, or do you speak individually?
Well, I kind of do both. I do
Okay.
speak individually, and then I'll interview people as well. And then really my mission of the podcast is to change the stigma of a population that, in my view, gets ridiculed for the most ridiculous reasons alive.
Yes, exactly. I know. We go through it often. My daughter is on the spectrum as well. And it's interesting how people respond when they hear that, because she's not your typical autistic person. But as we know, there is no such thing, right? As a typical autistic person.
No, man, there shouldn't be. We're all wired not the same.
Right. It's completely differently. My daughter is so funny because she brought up, we were talking about it one time about how when I got her evaluated, I was saying, we're just learning how your brain works because all brains work differently. And then when she got the autism diagnosis, we were talking about it. I'm like, well, your brain works differently. And she's like, well, Mom, all brains work differently. Why does mine have to have a label? And I'm like, good point. Because also within the autism community, all brains work differently, right?
Right. Well, your daughter's answer is because of society and their brains has to have it, which, believe me, I agree with your daughter. It's wrong, but welcome to the world we live in.
Right. Yeah, no, and that's an issue I have often with with special education in the IEP process, that there's the 13 categories to qualify, and we have to stuff you into one of those categories. And that's supposed to, but you have to have that in order to qualify and then to get the IEP. And of course, the IEP should be individualized, not based on. But as we all know, the reality, they see a certain diagnosis, they see a certain code, and people start assuming certain ways, which is so often completely not, as we know. What I like to say is you've met one autistic child or one autistic person means you've met one autistic person. That's why it's a spectrum, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So what's the bigger mission? Like, obviously to break the stigmatism of autism and to show the world that I'm trying to think of a way of putting it, because like you're just like everybody else. And it sounds so cliche, but it's true, right?
Right. Well, I think what we try to do mainly is the nonprofit with the events and speaking gigs I mentioned earlier. But what I try to do is provide educational media content, kind of like this.
Got it. So to put it out there and for people to see. And I know you've done a TEDx talk, right?
Yes, ma'am. It was virtual because of COVID, but it's still qualified as a TEDx talk. It's called Soul Structure, and it's about why those on the spectrum need structure. And I'll tell you why. It's because this world is way too unpredictable. And I think you can agree because of raising a daughter, I and your daughter, along with many people who are on the autism spectrum, don't like that.
Right. Exactly. It's interesting. My daughter's a little different because she has the pathological demand avoidance, which while she likes things to be routine and structured, it can't be too structured because it's too much demand on her, and causes issues. But it's still, she likes to know if A happens, B happens, if B happens, C happens, and knowing, what the cause and the effect of actions.
Right. Mine
Right.
is similar, but it depends on what it is. Like, used to, I was very tedious on a vacation. When we went to San Antonio a while back ago, I literally made an itinerary. If that says anything about my childhood. Now it's more of like, you know what? We'll do whatever. I don't care. But when it comes to some stuff like this podcast, no, I'm still very tedious, walk on the rope ordeal.
Got it. Yeah, it's interesting how different, and as you grow, I guess as you grow and adapt, I hate saying adapt, but you know what I mean. As you grow and you change, your needs change and what you are willing to, or what you are able, I don't want to say able, but willing's not the right word either. But you know what I mean? Like how you interact with the world changes.
Right. Even the person with the mindset of 3-year-olds matures. Everyone matures.
Right. Right. And one of the things that I love the newer trends is that schools are realizing and parents are realizing not to force our children with autism to fit into their society, what society expects. For example, like for the eye contact, for so many times, they would have on the IEPs that, oh, the child will learn how to make eye contact. And it's like, why are we forcing our child with autism to be uncomfortable in the learning environment by making eye contact? If to me, their brain is focusing on, I need to make eye contact. Nothing else is working in the brain of learning environment, right? And so the trend is now to show active listening in whatever way that might be.
Right. And I think there's some traits that people glorify and they shouldn't care about. The eye contact, it's glorified. Who cares
Right.
if you don't make eye contact? There's a
Right.
lot worse things that can happen. We should be more worried about them punching a wall instead of them looking at you.
Exactly. And that's the problem, is that if you're forcing a child to be uncomfortable to make eye contact, it's going to overstimulate them potentially. And then they might have that physical reaction. So you're actually making things worse, right?
Right. It's ridiculous.
Hmm. And so, like, I want to go into, I know you mentioned a lot about, like, I'm looking back on some things about like bullying and how that's impacted you. Has it personally impacted you?
Oh my gosh, man, you have no idea. I would say it's made me more of a, I don't want to say isolated person, because trust me, I go out here and there. Believe me, that's not the case of say, well, I hate people, I'm never going out. No, but it's made me very selective on who I hang out with, and trust issues are there as well.
Right.
It takes a while for me to warm up to you. The way I describe it, it's a feral cat who warms up to you. We have 3 cats right now, right?
Yeah.
At first, they were feral. We tried to pick them up. It was growling, hissing, biting, scratching, run away from you. Now
Mhm.
it's more of we come to you and rub against your leg.
Right. And that makes sense because it's the trust gets so broken, so often. And how do you learn how to not? Um, I've seen some situations where the bullying is occurring and the student like what I've seen with some kids on the spectrum is that the student is so wanting to belong and so wanting to be friends with everybody that even though they're not being treated right, they're still coming back to be friends with, doing what they feel they need to do. But if I do this, they'll like me. If I do this, they'll like me, and start right not being themselves and doing sometimes inappropriate things, unfortunately.
Right, or get manipulated for something they didn't realize they were doing was wrong.
Right. Yeah, I've seen that as well. And it's frustrating because it's um one of the things that I've seen often is that the schools don't always, well, they don't support our kids on the spectrum in the sense of if there's a group of bullies, but the bullies aren't stupid. They know when and how to say things and do things that nobody else sees it. And they poke, 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 poke at the student with autism. And then the student with autism finally explodes and fights back, or has an emotional, dysregulation um, experience. And the school yells at the kids with the autism. And when it's been brought to the school's attention of like, well, the kid is teasing constantly. And the schools have said to me and on occasion of like, well, it's just kids being kids. There's going to be teasing.
No,
Yeah.
not to a level.
Yeah.
There are some cases where it's beyond teasing. It's torture.
Right. Right.
I mean, how many times? Why do you think we're having parents pulling children out of your school?
Exactly. And
Because
looking
you're
for other
not doing your
options.
job.
Right. Exactly. And protecting these kids. And it's like, yes, there's always some teasing, kids are kids. However, it's our job as society and schools especially to teach these kids that it's not okay. Like to tease people because they're different, to call them names, to manipulate, to make people make these kids uncomfortable, call it poke at them because they think it's funny to let the kids explode.
Right.
And if
You're
right if
going against what schools are supposed to be, too, in my opinion.
exactly.
Schools are supposed to be a safe learning environment. You nailed
Yeah.
the learning down, but your safety, if you're not doing anything about that bullying, it's a joke.
Yep. Agree 100% because, well, and you can't even nail the learning down because if somebody doesn't feel safe in their environment, they're not learning anything. There's no learning that can take place. They're too afraid of, what's going to happen next. Is somebody going to throw something at me? Is somebody going to hit me? I need to be aware of my surroundings to make sure I'm not near this person or that I am near a teacher or, what happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's so, yeah, I mean, the schools, unfortunately, as good as they are compared to previously, there's still a long way to go.
Oh, yeah. I was fortunate enough to probably go through a really good school that sure had its flaws in some situations, but with special education, they got it down. They got it right. But I've also known parents I've seen on social media where they pull the child out and they
Yeah.
homeschool them because anyone's doing their job for the child, but the school.
Right. Right. And I definitely don't blame the teachers because the teachers are doing the best they can with the resources they have. Unfortunately, it's usually the higher ups that are making rules, making decisions based on the bottom line and not really looking at who these children are and how we can meet their needs. And
Right. It's crazy that schools do that to me. It's just my brain's like what our society has come to.
right, right. What are they allowing? Um, yeah, and it does start with the school of what we're teaching our children and what we're allowing. Because if you're allowing kids to bully other kids and saying it's acceptable, then that's how they're going to be in society. And is that the society we want for anyone?
Not really.
right? Exactly. And so, like, what else? So I know you started the Autism Rocks and Rolls. How long have you been podcasting?
Since October 2019, ma'am, but the nonprofit
Wow.
was in 2020, but that's when the pandemic happened. So the world shut down and I couldn't do much.
Right.
So I like to say it technically started in 2021, but if you really want to get really, really technical, it was 2020.
Got it. And what's the name of the nonprofit?
It's Autism Rocks and Rolls, just add the word corporation after.
Got it. Okay. And so, and the goal of the nonprofit is to educate families, the public about autism and the realities of it, right?
Right. I mean, I've seen people who post only positive, and I've seen people who only post negative online.
Yeah.
That's not my goal. I do both.
Yep. You do real.
Yeah, I'm pretty authentic in my posting. Sometimes it's like, whoa, Nelly, did he really just say that? Yeah, it's the truth. Sorry.
Right. Sorry, not sorry.
Right. I came, but I didn't have really, that, say that again. But I really didn't have a choice because I came from two parents who were amazing and still are. They're just blunt as hell.
Yeah. I've lost friends in my life because I'm the same way. I don't sugarcoat it. Don't ask me if you don't want to know the answer because I'm going to be flat out honest with you and it might not be what you want to hear. But that's why, if you can't handle it, that's unfortunately, I'm not going to change me for you. That's who I am. And that's, some people appreciate it, some people don't. And that's okay.
Yeah, I've lost several friends of mine that are like that too. But you know what? That's a you problem that you can't handle the truth because that needs to be told sometimes.
Right, exactly. And the hard truth is, yes, it is hard to hear sometimes, but it's important because, guess what? We're not all perfect.
Right.
We all
And
have
my
flaws.
truth is never to be disrespectful. It's to
Right.
be honest. I mean, I'm a firm believer in tough love sometimes.
Yep. It's
I
so
mean,
true.
you shouldn't use it all the time and smack their hands where you're making them stand straight all the time. That's too much.
Right.
But here and there, it needs to be said.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a fine line of doing things, saying things in a way that's still being honest and true, but not being mean. For example, I was thinking of a time that my mom and I were shopping for clothing, and she's like, that outfit really makes you look fat. I'm like, Mom, that's really not the nicest way of saying that. The reality is, I'm fat. I know that. But how about saying, I've seen you look better? And she's like, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. She's still being honest. She doesn't like it on me, but you don't have to call out the negatives.
Right. Yeah, there's a line. There's a line.
Yeah.
I try my best not to cross it, but I've been known to cross it several times in my life.
Right. Well, but it's also like, you know what? Don't say, do I look fat in this? If you don't want me to say yes, if I think you do, like, does this make my butt look big? No, your butt is big. It's not the dress.
Right.
But it's the way to be. I mean, that's what I love about you and your show is that it's just so it's real, it's honest, it's the way it needs to be. And that's what I love that I try to do with my show also is make it real and honest of, it's parenting is hard, being, a neurodiverse adult, child, everything. Growing up in society is hard even when you're neurotypical, as they say. But it's finding your own way. And I love that you've found your way in making the podcast and making the nonprofit and making, I'm trying to think of how to word it. Just finding your way and not letting society put you in that little box of like, oh, well, you're autistic, so you can't do certain things.
Well, I think a lot of it came
Right.
from self-advocating, but I think a lot of it was seeing that this world's not built for me. This
Yeah.
world's probably not built for your daughter.
Yep.
And I'm in a world that isn't going to give me a chance. We know, you may know, I know this for
Yeah.
sure, I've done the research. There's 85% of people who are unemployed. Now, part of it's probably because the person with autism is lazy and doesn't want to get a job. That's probably part of it. But I
Yeah.
bet you another percent of that population is because the boss isn't taking them in.
Yeah. But I also wonder if part of that population, the lazy and doesn't want a job, isn't necessarily them, but kind of how society has made them. Do you know what I mean? Like being told, well, you have autism, you can't hold down a job. You can't do this. Here we're going to give you these benefits. Here we're going to give you that, and not giving them that opportunity to build that self-confidence, right? Maybe.
You're probably right to a point, but I also think it's sometimes the way they're wired. I'll be
Yeah.
honest with you, I got a friend right now, and I won't say who it is, but probably not the most motivated person alive.
Right.
Well, and it's because this person who is on the spectrum biologically is 39, but mentally is a child.
Yeah.
And it's because of the way they're wired to a point. There's probably some, though, like you said, it's because the way they're wired, we're going to give you all these benefits, don't have to do any work.
Right.
But there's
That's the
some,
thing.
but I think there's some out there who are like, I don't want it. I want to go eat cookies all day.
Right. But they have somebody supporting that and letting them buying them the cookies and giving them the place to live, right?
Right. But I think it also depends on how you're raised too.
Yeah.
I mean, the way I
Yeah.
was raised, I have a part-time job and not a full-time job. Partially, I think, just because I'm 23 and haven't hit that milestone yet. I think it's just partially age, but I also think there's a part of me that really believes it's because I'm getting mistreated.
Right. Yeah. No, it's hard. I mean, it's employers, being a law firm owner also and having, been an
And if
employee
you
and an
met me, it's
employer.
not me trying to say I want to be lazy and go get the cookies. No, I work hard. I mean,
Right.
that's why I created a nonprofit and being executive director partially, because I was fearful of seeing people with autism get declined so much and fighting in the workforce. I didn't want to fight that. I definitely understand that I do have to fight it some all the way. But if I didn't have AR, it would be a bigger fight than it is today.
Right. No, it's true. And it's, it goes back to when being brought up and, society, what they expect you to be at an interview. And, like you should be making eye contact, you should be doing this, you should be doing that, and how you should be as an employee, when you need to look outside of the box for, some of our autistic kids might, and adults, young adults might not be able to do XYZ as in the interview and the way the interview be. But if you give them a working interview of like, hey, come in and work for a day, you'll see the skills and where they have, and they could be an amazing employee.
Oh man, you saying that, I just thought that'd be so much better for some people.
Right?
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm probably not one of those people. I can probably do a job interview really well, in my opinion. But
Mm-hmm.
I bet there's some out there who would be so much better at a work interview or work test than go do the job interview.
Right. And I've interviewed people that interviewed what really, really well. And then they started the job and I'm like, what just happened? Because this isn't who I interviewed. So it's different people have different skill set. And that's where I think our society needs to change in looking at how we interview people and how we present jobs to people. I have the argument all the time with a lot of, family and friends about the way I raise my daughter sometimes of like, well, she's going to have to learn how to deal with people at some point in time. I'm like, why? No, she doesn't.
Well,
Right?
I'm gonna hate to disagree with you on this one, but I think
It's
there
okay.
is a possibility that she is going to deal with people. I mean, she's around people all the time. I mean, it's not maybe it's a stranger at Walmart, but it's mom and dad.
Right. But like when it comes to that, if she doesn't like a teacher and I push to get her out of that teacher's class, well, she's going to have to learn how to work for people she doesn't like. I'm like, why would she? If I work for somebody that I don't like, I'm going to quit my job and get a different job. Why are we forcing these kids to be in uncomfortable situation?
Right. No, I see your point too. That makes 100% sense. It's
Yeah.
just that for me to tell your daughter, you can be stranded from people all the way. BS.
Right. Oh no, exactly. No, I mean, she's very, very, very social. So that's not the issue. But like when interacting with some people that she doesn't feel comfortable around, they're like, well, you need to force her to interact with people she's not comfortable. No, I don't. If she's not comfortable, I'm not forcing her to be uncomfortable. It's she needs to feel comfortable with herself and in her body, and that's more important than hurting somebody else's feelings type situation.
Right. No, I see where that is. And I 100% agree with you on that one.
Yeah. Just like, there's so many times that grandma or auntie or whoever comes over and wants a hug, and parents will force their child to give a hug. If my child's not in the mood for a hug and isn't comfortable in a hug, she shouldn't have to do that. Like
No,
I under right?
who that's one of those other behaviors that again should be on the back burner. Maybe one day we can work on that, but there's bigger concepts to get over
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
or
Give
bigger
a high five
concepts
or
that need to get over. I mean, sure, there's some behaviors that are glorified, but I think there's some that really does need to be looked at
yeah. Yeah.
because we can't bite people, we can't punch people in the face.
Right. And we have to learn how to handle that. But that's where you don't have to be forced to interact with somebody. If my child is around a certain person that makes her feel like she wants to punch him, guess what? You have permission to leave. No matter what. You don't have to force yourself to be okay around this person if that person triggers something in you.
Right, I see where you're going with that one 100%.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like our society, and I mean, this goes on to so many different levels of what our society expects of people and how they expect us to behave and what we're expected to do. And it's kind of like, why do we have to be like that? We don't. We can make our own path. We can do our own thing. Um, yeah.
Right. And I mean that's why I created. I mean, I love AR and I wouldn't change it for the world, man. But I knew, I mean, if I didn't do something, I'd be a basement kid playing video games. And realistically, because of the way I was raised, and I'm not the child mindset, I don't want that life.
Right. Yeah. And you're going to get out and make your own way. And that says a lot about your parents as well, about upbringing. And um, it's sad to see how so many kids are limited in what they can do just because society says they can't.
Right. And that's just not who I am. I don't want to be the child with autism literally being spoon fed money or living off their parents' money.
Right. And so you made your way. You went and did, and I love that. I think it's amazing of a true, testament of like autism isn't it's not a disease, it's not a death sentence, it's not all of that stuff. It's the way your brain works. And guess what? There's some things that autistic kids can do and autistic adults can do that neurotypicals can't. Like all of our brains are different. We excel at some things and don't excel at other things, and that's okay.
Right. I mean, how much details does your daughter notice more than you?
Oh, totally. I am not a detail. Like she can tell you everything, and I'm the type of person that like I'll know somebody for years, and if you ask me their eye color, I have no clue because that's not a detail I remember. But she she knows, and her memory is unbelievable. And yeah, and like that's the thing. Like she's learned how to do certain things that I could never dream of, and when she puts her mind to doing something, she can do it. Yes, it's hard and it's a challenge, but she goes into her own little space and she doesn't want anybody else to help her. And she's like, I'm going to do it when she gets
Yeah, that's pretty much what I had to give up. We decided to do a nonprofit, and that that's something I still work on, because if it was up to me, I'd rather have multiple hands and do everything alone.
Yeah.
But with a nonprofit, you just can't.
Right. Yep. I definitely understand that one. There's definitely, I'm the same way. Like there are, because it's that I know how to do it and I know how to do it the way I want it done. And nobody else can do it the way I want it done. But the reality is you can't do it all. Um, Not that you can't as in capability, but you can't as in time and reality.
Right.
Um,
And because if you try to do it, let's just be realistic, mentally, you'll drain yourself.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. No, I mean, I look at the law firm and before I had assistants and everything, and when I was trying to do it all myself, and it was rough. I don't know what just happened. That was really weird. Did I just blink out?
That Yeah, technical glitch, it happens.
Yeah, that's so weird. But thankfully, I was able to, it brought me right back in again. I don't know why. Um, I need to look into that. But glad I'm here. So no, I mean, this has been, I love that I can't wait. I want to show my daughter this episode. And I'll tell you, I don't watch any episodes. I've watched one half of an episode and I think I'm up to like 130 episodes. And the only reason I watched that half of an episode is because I wanted my daughter to see it. So I'm going to have her watch this one also to be like, because again, like people are telling her, oh, well, you can't do this or you can't do that, or, you have to do things this way. And I love that you're like paving the way of like, no, you really don't. Make
No,
it
you
like you
you
want it.
don't. There's some things in life that I do see that I think it needs to be a certain way. And
Yeah,
sometimes as much as it is a fight with society, there's some stuff I agree with. Great example. Driving, I don't drive, but the way they teach it, I get it. It has to be that way, where they sit in the passenger seat. But
right.
don't expect me to drive, because that way doesn't work for me. It's too nagging. It gives me too much anxiety, and it just builds my anticipatory anxiety up. I get frazzled.
Right.
But at the same time, I see society saying, well, that's the way it has to be taught. And it's not because there's no other way, it's just out of safety.
Yep. And that makes sense. And it doesn't work for you. So guess what? You don't need to learn how to drive. How many people in New York never learn how to drive, right?
Right. And we now have buses. Back
Yep.
in time, people took bicycles. Heck, there's even a
Yep.
time where people drove horses and did buggies.
Exactly. Exactly. So what, like, I want to wrap up a little bit here, but before we wrap up, I want to see what like important, like looking back on your childhood and like education experience and when your parents were raising you, what are some pointers you could give parents of what to do to help their kids grow up to be like you that paved your own way and made your own path?
Well, my first piece of advice on that is do the research and know the laws. I've seen it happen before where teachers have pretty much lied and say, well, we don't have to do it. It's not against any policy. No, there's probably a policy where there is something against that policy.
Yep. Nope, that is so true. Learn the knowledge is power, what I like to say, right?
Right. And then another piece of advice is if you can't find the right school, take them home.
Yeah.
If
Yep.
you are robbing them of education, which is something every human deserves. And I get a child not taking the education help just because they're not interested in school. Believe me, I had a friend who, if he could, dropped out of school, he would and go to work. But it's a human right. And if they're not getting that human right, that's not fair. It's not legal.
Right. And unfortunately, the schools cannot meet the needs of all of our kids. And I love that you said, or take them out and homeschool them, because one of the things that I'm doing currently is working on opening a school for our kids that traditional schooling's not going to work. But, some of us are lucky enough that we can homeschool our kids if we need to, but some people can't. And so it's, let's get out there, and if the environment's not there for our children to learn safely, then let's create that environment.
Well, here's my other piece of advice. If you can't do homeschooling and schooling isn't good for them, thankfully we have in this world now that are therapists where they take the child in all day and they learn through that person. They're trained to do it. Take them in. I know there's controversies around some of the therapies like ABA,
Yep.
but despite the controversies, which I do understand, believe me, there's good reason for that controversy. As a previous guest of mine said, it's an education.
Yep.
And regardless of the controversy, education is education.
Yep. And what I like to say with the controversy is that there's controversy about everything. Every situation isn't right for every child and every person. So ABA might work for your child, but not for somebody else, and that's okay. But the wonderful thing about our world, is supposed to be, is that you get to choose what works for you. Just because it doesn't work for somebody else doesn't mean you can't choose it for yourself.
Right. I met several people who have had to take their children out and they did something else so much more better for them.
Yeah, exactly. Because they can be themselves, and mental health is so important, which we didn't even touch on. But that's the thing. Like if you're in a learning environment that you're not safe and it's impacting your mental health, what are you teaching your child?
No, the mental health aspect of it is crucial because
Yeah,
who wants to go to a place every day and feel drained?
exactly. Exactly. I agree. So this has been, Sam, thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been so awesome and eye-opening, and I love it. And I can't wait to get this out. Well, it's already out, but shared. I am going to have a link to your podcast and for your nonprofit. We will have the links. And just thank you so much for being on the show.
No problem. Thank you for having me. And hopefully you guys will check out my podcast. If you want to find it, you can find it on your favorite media platform. Not a hard guy to find. Just Google me in your search engine optimization. Something will pop up. But do me a favor, don't search my name because you'll get a basketball player, and I haven't done any slam dunks lately. It's better you research Autism Rocks and Rolls.
There you go. Awesome. Thank you so much, Sam. And thank you all for joining us on this episode of Stress Free IEP. We hope today's conversation gave you new tools, insights, or just a little more peace of mind as you support your neurodivergent child. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you found this episode helpful, please share it with someone in your village. Next week, we'll have the episode 126, Breaking Down the School Search Process. Insights from Haley Jacobson and Rich Weinfeld from the Weinfeld Education Group. You can always learn more and connect with me at schefterlar.com or follow along on social media. Until next time, remember, you do not have to do it all alone.